I'll be in the lobby greeting your guests." Charles took that opportunity to pull me aside. He had that look in his eye. "Look, Ken," he spoke in a whisper, "there's some tension in the family." "Oh?" I replied. "There usually is. Combine the emotion surrounding the death of a family member with the impending estate settlement, i.e. money, and you can have a tense situation." "Yeah, my 2 younger brothers didn't have much to do with my mother." I nodded. I knew he had 2 brothers because they'd been mentioned in the death notice. "I don't know if they'll come or not. I hope they don't, but if they do, they might cause trouble." Oh, great, I thought. I wished he'd let me in on this little tidbit of knowledge days ago when we had made the arrangements. I have in the past hired off-duty police officers to sit in for funerals where trouble was expected. Instead, I reassured him, "Don't worry, I deal with this all too frequently. I'm sure it'll be fine." Famous last words. It'll be fine. It wouldn't be. It's amazing how calming the presence of a uniformed officer merely sitting in a lobby can be. In 2 instances, I've had them spring into action to prevent a disaster, but getting an off-duty officer with no notice on a Saturday was out of the question. I'd have an easier time conjuring a genie from one of the urns in my showroom. I knew I'd just have to grin and bear it, and hope. As it turns out, hope wasn't enough. Not by a long shot. I knew them as soon as I laid eyes on them. They slunk in like 2 wolves, all easy strides and furtive glances behind wayfarer shades they didn't take off, even in the dimness of the mortuary. I extended the sleeve of my newly pressed suit to point at the guest book. "Sign the book, please." Not a glance in my direction, they just glided by. There they are, I thought. The prodigal sons have arrived, and I was correct. The wolves set up camp at the foot end of the casket opposite Charles and Jeanette. When a guest arrived, they would greet either the camp at the head of the casket or the foot end, never both. There was a clear division in the family. Thankfully, everyone behaved during the visitation, and if it was half as uncomfortable for them as it was for me witnessing it, then it was a pretty painful hour for the family members. I was glad to get all the guests seated and get the service started. My chapel has pew seating with a center aisle, and I was guessing by who sat on what side, which camp they sided with. I went into the deserted lobby and let out a sigh of relief. Everyone would behave during the service because it was structured. Whenever there's been a problem in the past, it has been during the visitation. That is the unstructured part, when people can find ways to get into trouble. But people sit in silence and listen during a service and generally behave. I didn't know it, but this was going to be a first. The service sailed along smoothly until it came time for people to offer testimony. This is when members of the audience get up and share thoughts and memories about the deceased. Each of the children, even the wolves, got up in turn and read a little something they had pre-written about their mother. It was very touching. "Anyone else care to testify?" the considerably sized clergywoman asked. A man in a 3-piece suit sitting on the side of Charles and Jeanette stood up and walked up to the microphone. He identified himself as Earl, Mrs. Revis's brother. Without preamble, Earl started right in. "Ray and Sam," he said, pointing to the wolves, "you ought to be ashamed of yourselves." He jabbed a finger at them. "You treated your mother poorly. A God-fearing woman. She didn't deserve that. It's shameful. Just shame." One of the Wolf brothers stood up and yelled, "You wouldn't visit her either if she'd cut you out of the will while your siblings stood by and took your share. Besides, who are you to stand and give judgment?" Charles' red face stood up and said loudly, "Maybe if you hadn't been stealing from her, she wouldn't have cut you off." A wolf, I wasn't sure which, stepped from his pew. I was in the back frantically motioning for the clergywoman to step in and take control by making a cutting motion across my throat. "Stealing," the wolf said. "Is that what you call it?"